Leonard often spoke of Lila, his first love from the 70s, showing off a Polaroid that captured their youthful days. His family had heard the stories countless times, but one evening as he nostalgically shared the story with his daughter Clara, she leaned in closer, her eyes widening in shock. "Dad," she murmured, "there's something in this picture that's eerily familiar." There were details in the certain picture that Leonard had always missed but now wished he didn't. He needed to find some answers. Where was Lila now? Would he be able to find her? And most importantly, what had Clara spotted that Leonard had missed? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Leonard had lost his wife, Kate, over 5 years ago. Through his grief, he would often lose himself in his memories. To remind himself of the warmth love had brought him, he would often reminisce about old love stories of him or his passed-on wife to show to his daughter Clara and himself that love didn't only give heartache. Clara, Leonard's 25-year-old daughter, was always compassionate and understanding towards her grieving father. Though the grief was still there for her as well, she understood that her father had lost her life partner. She needed to support him. He loved the feeling of nostalgia, and what would be better than going back in time through photos? They had grabbed boxes from the attic. They were filled with old photo books. Clara and Leonard had started with the last photo album. They wanted to go back in time gradually, talk about Clara's childhood and how Leonard and his wife used to fight about how to raise her. Clara was always interested in understanding who her father used to be before meeting his mother. Regardless of her mother, Clara loved hearing that story. They had opened a photo album and the Polaroid picture had fallen out. Both of them had been intently staring at it as it slowly hit the ground. Clara's brows furrowed, a look of recognition going over her face. Leonard looked towards the side to see his daughter, but her face didn't quite have the expression he had expected. She was certain she had seen this woman before. This definitely was no stranger. "Dad," she said before continuing. She didn't know how to tell him this. "There is something in this picture that is eerily familiar," Clara continued. "That looks like the pendant in Grandma's photos," she whispered. "How did Lila, a love from decades ago, possess an heirloom from Leonard's family? I had a pendant just like that," he murmured. "Lost it during a summer trip when I was 16. It was an heirloom." But how did it end up with Lila? A single photograph had transformed a day of simple nostalgia into a puzzle filled with questions and uncertainties. What was the link between Leonard's lost childhood, Lila, and the pendant? Leonard, with the Polaroid still in hand, cleared his throat, memories welling up. "This pendant," he began, looking up to meet Clara's eyes, "it belonged to my great-grandmother. It's been in the family for generations." He explained how it was not just a piece of jewelry, but a token of resilience and love, passed down with stories of strength and unity from one generation to the next. The presence of the pendant in the photograph after so many years was nothing short of miraculous. How had it journeyed from a lost summer day to Lila's possession? Clara, ever the thinker, began hypothesizing. "What if," she ventured, "the pendant played a role in guiding your lives? Maybe it's not just an heirloom but a compass." Leonard looked at her, intrigued. While searching through the box, Clara's fingers brushed against a crisp envelope. The handwriting was unmistakably Lila's. "Look at this," she whispered, holding it up. As he unfolded the paper, both father and daughter leaned in. The letter was heartfelt, with Lila expressing her admiration for Leonard and regret over the decisions made. Lila's letter alluded to moments they shared, moments Leonard didn't recall, and even hinted at other secrets she had kept. While the letter answered some of their questions, it posed many more. Clara, ever the curious soul, noted, "There's more to this story, isn't there?" Clara watched as her father nervously dialed a familiar yet long-avoided number. After what felt like an eternity, a voice answered, "Hello?" It was Daniel. "It's Leonard," he began, hesitation evident in his voice. "We need to talk about Lila." A long pause ensued, broken by Daniel's soft reply. "All right." It was Daniel who broke the silence. Lila was special to both of us." Leonard nodded in agreement. As the hours passed, Daniel recounted his memories, painting a picture of his time with Lila. He spoke of regrets, of moments he wished he could take back, and of his understanding of Leonard's feelings. Both men, now connected by their shared purpose, realized that to truly understand and find peace, they needed to trace Lila's steps after she had left their lives. The letter, penned in Lila's graceful handwriting, was filled with confessions and sorrow. "I found out I was pregnant after we parted ways. I named him Leo," it read. The gravity of those words felt almost tangible. Lila had given birth, keeping the existence of their potential child a secret. With the letter as their compass, Leonard, Clara, and Daniel began to piece together the puzzle. The trio meticulously traced back, seeking clues, piecing together dates, and trying to understand the circumstances that led Lila to make the choices she did. The timeline, combined with anecdotes and Lila's vagueness about Leo's father, suggested a complex truth. Either Leonard or Daniel could be Leo's father. Daniel, with hesitant breaths, began unfolding his chapter with Lila. "We had our moments," he whispered. "Stolen glances, secret rendezvous, and promises." The mystery was no longer just about a pendant. It was about legacy, identity, and love. Sleepless nights filled with memories of Lila affected Leonard's health, and the strain began to surface in occasional outbursts. Daniel, battling his emotions, started to withdraw, often lost in his thoughts, barely speaking during their journeys. Just when things seemed bleak, they stumbled upon a photograph from a local gallery. It showcased a woman with a striking resemblance to Lila and a young boy, possibly Leo, against the backdrop of a familiar house. Clara's eyes shone with hope. "This could be it!" she exclaimed, the first real lead pointing directly to Leo. The quaint house stood at the edge of town, surrounded by wildflowers. With bated breath, the trio approached. A young man answered, his eyes a mirror to Lila's. The resemblance was uncanny. "You must be Leo," Leonard whispered, his voice filled with a cocktail of hope, regret, and longing. As Clara and Leo exchanged glances, a flash of recognition passed between them. "We met at that art exhibition last year," Clara voiced, her surprise evident. "Indeed, you admired my painting," Leo replied, his voice soft and reminiscing. The realization dawned upon the rest. Fate had woven its magic, bringing two halves of a secret family together without them even knowing. Seated in Leo's cozy living room, they exchanged stories of the past years. Daniel and Leonard were amazed to learn how often their paths had nearly crossed with Leo's through mutual friends or shared events. Lila, now a graceful, older woman, entered the room. Time had added lines to her face, but hadn't diminished the spark in her eyes. Leonard's and Daniel's gazes were locked onto her, memories flooding back. Tears, smiles, and comforting silence filled the room, communicating more than words ever could. Amid the emotional reunion, Clara found herself holding the unopened letter once again. "Why didn't you ever give this to Dad?" she asked. Lila sighed, her eyes heavy with years of unsaid words. As days turned into nights, bonds reshaped. Leo and Clara, now knowing their relationship, shared secrets and childhood memories. Leonard and Lila took long walks, reminiscing and mending the gaps that time had created. Even Daniel, though still harboring feelings for Lila, found comfort in his renewed friendship with Leonard. Love, understanding, and acceptance began to paint the canvas of their intertwined lives. Seated between Leonard and Daniel, Lila took a deep breath. "I loved you both," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "in different ways, at different times." Yet when she discovered she was pregnant, fear and uncertainty made her flee. She didn't know which of them was Leo's father and felt overwhelmed. The name Leo wasn't just a mere coincidence, Lila explained with a tender smile. It was a combination. Le from Leonard and O from Daniel's surname, Orozco. She wanted her son's name to symbolize the love and affection she held for both men, regardless of who his biological father was. The room was heavy with emotion. understanding dawning in Leonard's and Daniel's eyes. Hesitantly, Lila reached into her pocket, revealing the pendant. "I took it," she confessed. "On a night I spent with Leonard just before I left town. I wanted Leo to have a piece of his past, even if I couldn't give him the whole truth." The pendant was more than jewelry. It was a silent promise, a connection, a keepsake for her son to remember who his father was. They all sat in contemplative silence, marveling at life's unpredictable tapestry. Clara mused, "It's fascinating how one decision can change so many lives." Daniel nodded, adding, "But sometimes it's those unexpected turns that lead us back home." Despite the turbulent revelations, an air of peace settled over them. They had found each other again, not just as former lovers or friends, but as a family.